Morning. This is the very last paving stone, and I've got a particular place for this. Let me show you. I borrowed a couple of these when I was doing the raspberry area, so I owe it a couple. That's one of them, and I think I'll probably end up using a couple of half to go in the end there, and then that's back in good order. Right, a few things to do today. Yep, you knew it. First thing in the morning, first task, well, you got high energy, move some of that compost. So it's going straight in the top, and this is the compost that I've been working on for some time. It's looking better at the bottom, I have to say, but straight on top of everything I've put in, and that layering won't do it any harm at all. Right, now a bit of harvesting. So if anybody was wondering whether growing the winter crops is worthwhile, there is no doubt. Some of the best crops of the year. I'm going to go for some parsnips next, and of course these are going to be long, slender, beautifully unblemished skins. I doubt it. Let's take one up and see. My experience is branched and quite a lot of blemishes on the skin, and it's always the way for me, but I think it's got a lot to do with the soil that they're in, which is pretty rich. Well, that ain't too bad, is it? Nice amount of parsnip on top, and we'll have maybe 3 of those. And there's method in my madness, because as you know, I am spreading my compost that I've made across the plot now. It's that time of year, and what I'd like to do is put a whole load of compost in this section. Can't go all the way over the parsnips, but I can certainly come down this far, given that I've taken all the parsnips out. Right, what's this one like? Yeah, all pretty similar. A good top, not such good lower root, but that's okay. This one's got a bit of mush on it, and it tends to happen as we get a bit further into the winter. We can get a few that are starting to show some blemishes, but there we are, plenty to eat from those. And we used the celeriac that I'd salvaged, and it was mighty fine, I have to say. Sort of, well, reinforces my view that I do need to grow it, but I need to find a way of growing it without all the infestation by slugs and worms. So, right, let's take these. Another crop to harvest. Right, swede next. And I'm going to take it from this bed because I am trying to release beds. My focus sort of shifts so that I'm really working on how I can replenish these beds with compost. So it does rather dictate what I move. And this bed has only about 1/3 of its space now with vegetables in it. Got a nice cabbage there. I think that's a fielder kraut. But we've got some decent swede in here. So I'm going to take 2. One small one and one larger one. And they are looking mighty fine. Beautiful. I was thinking just maybe I should try growing a celeriac in the polytunnel. I don't know. I've got to get the watering really sussed if I'm going to do that. And, well, I always grow carrots, so I don't think it would be in this space. I'm starting to clear the shed out more and more, and that's what that is. Let's get a carrot out for our stew, see what we've got. And they keep beautifully in here. I think we're going to have 2. I think I've got a couple that are going to be a little bit branched. Let's see. Nope, a little branch on that one, but 2 marvellous carrots. Have I mentioned how convenient it is to have my compost bin here? I just can't tell you. It's a revelation. I suppose it was no real big effort taking things down the bottom there. But in the winter it's very claggy down there, and it does make a little bit of journey time on a consistent basis adds up when you're working on the plot. So having things just able to be put into the bin so conveniently, well, I'm enjoying it. Well, the chickens are going to have a feast today, which is a good thing. I'll take these plants out. And this bed was always a compromise. It was made up of various bits of wood that I found to try and make this a reasonable bed. And I've got to take those apart, and the wood will go into my stock of woods, and we'll see whether they can be used for something usable and useful in the near future. Right, chicks, here you come. I should have brought some tools really, because these are fixed together. But I'm just thinking, where I've cleared those few parsnips, I might be able to just lift this bed and put it over there. And that'll help me retain all this soil. I can shift it over and it'll be pretty much like the other bed, sort of fairly well used compost. And hopefully my future parsnip growing would benefit from some compost that's not quite as, well, nutrient full. So anyway, I'm going to try lifting this up. I've got to be careful because I can see that I'm going to easily rip the screws out of it if I'm not careful. So we'll just take a channel from the back before I yank it up and see if we can move it in one piece. Well, pretty sure you saw the outcome of that. Wasn't having any of it. Slug. Right. Okay, well, I'm probably going to need to have some tools over here, and it fits nicely to have that extra sort of bed there, and I like the idea of putting this compost in there. So what I'm going to do, I think, is just shift this compost out of the way. I want to take about 4 or 5 inches off the top of it. I'll drop it on top of this first bed where it can sit until I've got that organised. Right, it was cold this morning. Heavy frost, really heavy frost. You know, the sort of morning where everybody's out scraping their windows on the car. So I need something to keep me warm. I'll move this. Well, there we go. That's a good amount of compost or soil, good soil. I had to go carefully as I was hooking it out of that old bed because that did have a bit of couch grass in it, and so it was worth taking the time, just making sure as I put each spade in to spread it across the wheelbarrow so that I could see if there was any couch grass roots in there. And I think I got most of it out anyway, and anything I see as I'm moving it into the other bed, then I can hook it out at that time. So that's given me a pretty nice flat platform. I'll show you. So all the time that I'm working in this part of the plot, I'm thinking about where I might put a shed. And it's a way off. It probably won't happen until, well, quite late on next year, maybe March, April time. But I'm thinking about the spaces that I've got, the depth and the width. I do like the fact that I can look out on the plot from here, and if I did put a shed here, then I can open the door or look through the window and look at what's growing and, well, sit down and have a cup of tea and contemplate my plot. I look forward to those moments. Okay, so that's a good step forward in this area, and without planning I sort of developed an idea over there of extending my beds, and I do enjoy growing from raised beds, as you know. Right, next. Right, a couple more bits of structural stuff to remove from this area. I've got a couple of bits of wood which should come out really easy and could prove useful. That's one. So I'll stick that over there for now. I've got a couple of those pieces now. They make a nice end to a bed. I don't think it's got a lot of life in them, but maybe a short life. I seem to have one bit of construction here, and this is one of the old edge of beds that I had that rots through, so that's going to go. And then I've got this corrugated arrangement that I put in to try and stop weeds growing into this bed, and I'm not going to need that anymore. So this is going to take a bit of heave-hoeing, so I'll get on and do that. I have got a brick path in there, just interlaced bricks. I'm going to leave that at the moment because, well, I'm only going to have to shift the bricks somewhere else, and I don't quite know what I'm going to do down here, and it might be useful just to have that brick path still in here. So I'll leave that for the time being. Okay, I'll get on with this. Right, that's got me out of that corner. If anybody who's relatively new to my channel has wondered why I've not put compost down this end, this is why. This couch grass grows under the ground into this area. It doesn't matter what I've done, barrier after barrier, it still creeps in. And I think I've finally come to terms with the fact that just covering this area is the way forward. Hence coming down here with coverings and using this as an area to put pots like garlic and potatoes, and a shed and my water barrels, and all those things that really don't require great growing conditions. So yeah, that certainly reaffirms the problem. Okay, so I've got a massive boulder out of there. Look at the size of that. And I know there's another couple of those along this way, and one of them I just couldn't lift when I worked on it a few years back, but got that one out okay. So, well, I've got lots of junk here now, and I don't like working like this, so I'm going to have a jolly good sort out and tidy up. Well, that feels a lot better. I feel like I'm back under control now, and that can all sit there for the next week or so whilst, well, I eat the sprouts really. Once I've ate the sprouts, I need to eat some cabbage, and then after that I've pretty much cleared this area out, and I can think about what levels I want. I think then I'm going to have to move the IBC tanks up to where I want those. That'll give me a real bearing on what I'm going to do for the future. Right, what else have I got to do in that compost area? Let's go and have a look. So in terms of moving out, I've still got potatoes here, which are ready for eating through the Christmas period, which will be lovely. And then I've got to move those pots. And so I need the flat area over there pretty well organised, although I can just collect the compost and stack the pots, I guess. I've got pots here which is just compost, where I've had the potatoes out already. And I'm beginning to think that I might put this spent compost into the polytunnel. I've actually got a whole bin full of spent compost behind these bits of wood here. So I think I'm probably going to have that out as well, and all of it go into my bed in the polytunnel. And then I might then top up the carrot container with that compost later on, because this is not particularly nutritious compost, and that's great for growing the carrots in. Right, what's over here? Okay, well, you can see the gentleman who's taken over the coop is starting to bring his materials over, so I'm moving as rapidly as I can. That's what I've got left of my sort of plot-based compost. So there's probably 4 or 5 barrow loads there. And I've got some chicken manure compost under there. That's probably a couple of barrow loads. And then I'm into this huge heap, and that will be what I put on the bulk of the rest of the beds. So quite a lot to do there. And then over here I've got various pots, because I've used this area as a nursery, and a lot of them are full of grass, so those pots are going to be one big hit, I think, sorting them out, removing grass, deciding what I'm going to keep and what I'm not. So all said and done, I'm getting out of here now pretty well. I've got sprouts which will last me through for some weeks after Christmas, and they're fine. They can just sit there until I pull them, and then it'll be a final review of what needs to go, and that shouldn't take me too long now. It's made good progress so far. Of course, I've got stacks to do over on the plot. Well, this week's weather is cold but dry. Fantastic. Just what you need for your allotment in the winter months. But we'll see how we go. Take every day as it comes, have a look at the weather forecast. I find it's best to look out the window in the morning these days rather than pay too much attention. There we go. Well, I hope you've had a good week and got some time on your plot. And if you like this video, then click on the thumbs up. It makes an awful lot of difference to the channel. It really helps. And if you make comments, that helps too. And I love to hear what you've got to say. And I reply to every single comment that I get. At least that's my intention. If I missed you at any time, then I apologise. Have a good week. Click on the bell, get my uploads every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Good times.